Russell Stover's Killer by the Prowler. As my fiancé and I drive to our favorite restaurant to celebrate Valentine's Day, I turn on the radio and am immediately greeted with the local news breaking another murder.
This just in. The chocolate box killer strikes again. A young couple was found savagely murdered inside their vehicle earlier this morning outside their home. The killer's calling card was placed in the deceased male's lap, a circa 1980s dusty box of Russell Stover's chocolates. This brings the total number of deaths to 10. 10 loving couples whose flame has been snuffed out by this holiday madman. Police urge couples in any stage of their relationship to stay inside for the next 2 days until the holiday is over. Police patrols have been increased, but they don't know when the killer, also known as the chocolate box killer, or more recently, the Russell Stover's killer, might strike again. So if you're listening to this broadcast, and you and your significant other care for each other's well-being, please stay inside and stay safe. Good luck.
I turned off the radio in shock and disgust and turned to my fiancé. We stared at each other, not knowing what to do. She looked concerned, while I tried to keep a brave face to keep her comforted. We were minutes from the restaurant, so we decided to go ahead with our plans. We just have to keep a close eye out for trouble, be quick about our business, while also trying to enjoy ourselves and get home safely. As I'm saying all this to myself, it's beginning to sound more foolish. We should be taking our narrow asses back to the safety of our home. There's a killer out, a killer who's specifically targeting couples, and we're out here traipsing around like a couple of airheads from the same era the killer's chocolates are from. Careless 80s camp counselor moves that might get us killed. As we entered the restaurant, our decision felt even more foolish when we realized we were the only couples there, except for one other. An entire restaurant emptied except for us and another couple. The usual lively establishment felt dark and eerie. An originally planned romantic dinner now felt like a burden and needed to be rushed through. We were seated in our favorite booth in the corner of the room next to the fireplace, and we were greeted by our favorite waiter, Raoul. He of course asked for our order, but I could see in the corner of my eye him staring at us as if he was in total shock that we were even there. Yeah, I know, I thought, but we're here and we're going to make the best of it. We ordered our favorite meals, the eggplant parmesan for my love, and I ordered the chicken Alfredo, best Italian in the city, no bullshit. Raoul quickly placed our order, and we were left staring at each other across the table as we made small talk, dimly lit by the glow of the candle that adorned our centerpiece. I held her hand in mine, and we tried to drown out all the noise of the outside world and just focus on each other. No thoughts of killers or our eerie environment, not even the Italian classic love songs trying to set the mood. Sorry, Dean. Sorry, Frank. As we continued to wait for our food, we discussed our plans for the rest of the evening. Some movies and animalistic lovemaking would be how we ended our night, no matter what. As we were deep in conversation, however, I noticed the time was continuing to pass with no food being brought out, not even a refill of our refreshments. I looked around and became disturbed when I didn't see a member of the staff in sight. No Raoul, none of the other waiters or busboys, or the manager. I became a little concerned at that point. It was only us and the other couple in the dining room, just 4 people in sight in the entire establishment. My heart began to sink when I suddenly remembered something from the early stages of these murders, a report that didn't mean much at the time, but sure is beating down the door of the holy shit we're fucked house now. In the beginning, it was reported that the killer left a message proclaiming his terror would continue until Valentine's Day night, ending at 11:59, or until he killed 14 victims, symbolizing the 14 days of Valentine's. Well, like I said in the car, the victim count is at 10, and there's 4 of us in here, and we haven't seen a soul who works here in at least 30 minutes. After telling my fiancé what I just realized and that we should get the hell out of here, we heard a loud commotion come from the back in the kitchen, pots clanging as they hit the ground, followed by a pained grunt as though someone had just been hit. I motioned to my fiancé to call the police, and as she did, a figure stood behind the kitchen doors, staring at us through the glass porthole. We tensed up as the figure made his way into the dining room, shrouded and carrying a meat cleaver and 2 boxes of old dusty Russell Stovers. He approached our tables. Our decisions must be clear and smart, I thought, as I was quickly thinking of a plan for me and my love to escape. I noticed the other couple head towards the back in the direction of the bathrooms. That is exactly the kind of shit we will not be doing. That couple just made the classic horror movie mistake. The white, blonde teenager alone in the house. Run upstairs or lock yourself in the bathroom instead of running out the front door, about to get a box of old Russell Stovers placed on your corpse type of mistakes. That's about to get these poor dumb bastards killed. So rest in peace, rogue restaurant couple, and your horrible 80s horror movie decisions. While you're getting yourself killed, we'll be escaping through the front door, getting rescued by the police that just arrived, then arresting the crazed killer while you're laying on the cold bathroom floor, breathing your last breaths. So thanks to smart, proper thinking, we survived the Russell Stovers killer and his box of old Dusties. Bin Flowers by GuyAwks. One woman's trash is another woman's Valentine's Day bouquet, apparently. It's a sight that would easily grab my attention on an evening commute home, especially tonight. A dozen long-stemmed scarlet roses perched on the rim of a sidewalk trash can. There's something so inherently dramatic about a publicly rejected offer of love, like one of those failed proposals on live TV. Intrigued, I stopped near the bin to smoke my 1 per month cigarette, giving me time to ponder the origins of the mystery Valentine's Day flowers. What could have transpired that would make a woman dump an arrangement of fresh, likely expensive, roses in the trash? She must have caught her man cheating, I contemplate between drags. Unless, what if she was the cheating one, and this was her last-ditch attempt to hide the affair? My mind buzzes over the possibilities. Rose-giving dude might have just been a total stalker. Even I'd throw away good flowers if they came from a creeper. Or maybe it was the girl that was the stalker. Hell, what if there was no girl, and it was some gay couple's abandoned flowers the whole time? I butt out my cigarette and shrewdly consider taking the mysterious bin roses for myself. Surely you can do better than dirty bin flowers, Mel, I tell myself. You could catch a disease or bring a bug infestation home. Then again, they would just go to waste sitting in the trash. I can't remember the last time a guy bought me flowers. Waste not, want not, right? Against my better judgment, I decide to salvage the flowers. But as I go to pick them up, a folded note slips from inside the bouquet. It has been 1 month to the day since you were taken from us in this very spot. It reads in elegant cursive, "Rest peacefully, our beloved Evelyn. Love, your family." Embarrassment drops onto me like an anvil. Those weren't discarded Valentine Day flowers. Those were memorial flowers for some poor girl who was murdered right where I'm standing, exactly 1 month ago. I nearly nicked someone's memorial marker. What the hell is wrong with me? Before I can process this notion further, however, I feel the blade of a knife press against my neck. I realize, too late, that I'm not the only person with a 1 per month habit. The flowers return to where they were laid, as Evelyn's killer slits my throat open. Keep Your Claw on the Prize by GuyAwks. Claw machines are a scam, you know. They're designed to waste people's money. My high school boyfriend and I had already spent an idyllic Valentine's Day together at the local arcade when we happened upon a crane machine. Inside, atop the pile, was a magenta teddy bear with heart eyes. Playfully, I asked Drew to win it for me. It had seemed like a harmless request, the kind of chivalrous feat boyfriends attempted for girlfriends in movies. Ever the realist, Drew thought my desire for a souvenir was silly, but I teased and pleaded. So pragmatic Drew humored me and popped a coin into the slot. I watched him maneuver the claw back and forth and lower it with a press of the button. The contraption missed by an inch. After his third wasted dollar, I was over the bear and ready to forget it. "Aw, never mind, babe. It's probably lame anyway." Drew shushed me. Something had changed in his eyes. Determined, he spent the rest of the night perched in front of that box, trying and failing to retrieve me the pink bear. After our ruined Valentine's date, I assumed that would be the end of it. Stupid me. Day after day, Drew returned to the arcade, convinced that winning the bear was just one lever twist away. But every time he was unsuccessful, that bear would slip from the claw at the last second, or land just next to the opening. By the time I broke up with him, Drew was a shell of himself. I'd watched him devolve from an intelligent thinker into an unhinged dropout, all over a meaningless novelty toy. From then onwards, his obsession only spiraled. Last I heard, he'd taken to begging on the streets just to fund his attempts at the rigged machine. The guilt I felt for setting the ball rolling on his breakdown was undescribable. Years passed, and I eventually moved on, marrying another man and starting a family with him. Over time, Drew dwindled from my mind. Honestly, by that point, I expected him to never succeed. Imagine my surprise when I discovered Drew standing in my doorway one evening, covered in blood, and clutching that fateful pink teddy. How? Was all I could tremble at my decrepit former flame. His answer was more horrifying than I was prepared for. He hadn't beaten the machine, it turned out. Instead, after seeing a random young girl win the elusive bear with ease, he'd snapped and butchered her to death for it. Without any further trouble, Drew departed my house. His purpose for the last decade finally fulfilled. Despite my revulsion over the bloody toy left in my hands, or the murder of that poor child, I almost felt relief. Only then did I remember. My daughter went to the arcade that day, and she still hadn't come home. Terror on Valentine's Day. What we know. Author unknown. It is the 14th of February, 2023. Valentine's Day. A day for couples to celebrate their love for one another in ways extravagant or subtle. A chance for those with a crush to reveal their affections through a delightful bouquet or a delicious collection of chocolates. Yet for reasons which are still debated, by the end of this day last year, a terrible wave of violence had swept through the town of Milkywood, sending dozens to the morgue and scores more to the local hospital's trauma unit. "It was like he hated me," said Gabrielle, a student at Picklestone High, in an interview conducted at her hospital bed in the aftermath of the attack. She escaped with moderate injuries. Her boyfriend had grabbed her hair and bashed her head repeatedly against a desk at school. She adds that everything had seemed normal that day, and they were both looking forward to having a romantic dinner after school. The assault had come out of the blue, lightning, on a bright and sunny day. Victim statements obtained by police revealed that the same story had played out many times, all across town. The victims came from all walks of life: students, checkout operators, bankers, truck drivers. Each was set upon in vicious, almost rabid attacks. Some onslaughts involved weapons, but in many cases, the perpetrator used his or her bare hands to pummel their victim. Authorities were initially left baffled by the absolute lack of a common thread of anything tying all these victims together. Chief Inspector Michael Aldridge described the only pattern they could discern. What we could gather was that all of the victims were assaulted by people they were romantically attached to: husband, girlfriend, partner. Like these were crimes of passion, so many at once, he added, postulating that it was as if the love these people had for their significant other had suddenly turned into hate. Still, there was no real explanation, no plausible reason for so many people to suddenly turn on the ones they love, maiming or killing them. Then weeks later, a breakthrough. A junior detective working through statements and crime scene evidence spotted a connection. Roses. Nearly every survivor mentioned that just before the assault, their attacker had been handling a rose or bouquet of roses closely, that they were sniffing them. Could the crimson flowers have hidden some kind of toxin? Some pathogen, perhaps? Samples from the police department's evidence lockers were sent to a testing facility. The results? Inconclusive. Though they uncovered traces of some sort of unknown biological compound, the samples were too degraded, rendering any identification impossible. Further investigation revealed that the roses all came from Rogers Roses, a downtown florist. A police raid uncovered an abandoned shopfront. Authorities stress that although investigations are ongoing, the public have no reason to be apprehensive about roses this Valentine's Day. Latest news: fatal stabbing reported at Union Station. Live updates here. We broke up just before Valentine's Day. I still miss her. By 1001 Nights. Laura was the best girlfriend I had ever had, and our relationship was perfect. I'll still say it. For the time we were together, at least, it was perfect. We couldn't take our hands off each other, and the honeymoon phase seemed to last for months. I was deeply in love with her, and I wanted to spend every single second of my days with her. We were sitting in the bathtub together when I told her that. Perhaps not the most romantic spot, you might think, but something about water really did it for Laura and me. Her smooth, wet skin, the gentle, splashy sounds of warm water, the pattern and smell of her foamy hair on her shoulders. I felt almost dizzy with love and longing for her, and I just blurted it out. She giggled and splashed the sweet, foamy bathwater at me. "Well, is that your Valentine's Day announcement?" Because I'd been planning a little surprise for us, too. I laughed excitedly, splashed water back at her, loving the way it moved, her hair on her skin. "What is it, babe?" She smiled sweetly at me. "I said it's a surprise. But I'm glad you told me you love me. It will make the surprise even better." She slipped her delicate hands over me, and I was so overwhelmed by her loveliness and my love that I didn't notice then that she never said it back. I think about that a lot these days. February is too cold for swimming in our city, and I was surprised when she declared that we were going to the beach for the Valentine's Day surprise. I didn't like fooling around on the sand much, and driving down to the windy, gray, deserted strip of beach, which was our favorite spot during the summer, I felt confused and slightly irritated. "Come on, babe. It's what you've always wanted." She took my hand, running down straight to the water by a big crop of rocks, just where the land met the sea, against which we had kissed countless times during the summer. "Laura, honey, what is the surprise, though?" I could feel the cold seawater seep through my shoes. The gray water heaved behind us, and the wind whipped her hair into a furious cloud around her head. Her eyes shone greenish gray. "This is what you always wanted, right?" She was tugging off her pullover, dropping her clothes on the sand, where they were immediately soaked by the breaking waves. "Laura, I'm freezing. What are you doing?" I was so confused and getting a little bit scared. Fully naked now, wet almost up to her knees, she climbed up the rock and sat with her bare wet legs curled under her. She reached out her hand to me to join her on the rock. The sea behind her seemed to turn black, and waves reaching even higher. Voices, snatches of singing, filled the air. I looked up at her face, silvery pale, the color of the winter sky, streaked with shiny dark hair. She opened her mouth and joined in the singing, and I swear I saw no legs, but a huge silver-green fishtail curled under her, half covered by the see-through water. I swear I saw a tail. "Come, my love." She drew her long arms to me. I felt nothing but fear, to get away from the sea, and Laura, and blackness in the water behind her. Laura saw the fear and rejection in my face. Her singing turned into a howl of fury. A mass of waves shaped like tentacles rose from the black heaving sea and smashed down, creating larger waves aimed straight for me. I turned and ran as fast as I could, my clothes soaked from the terrible cold spray. Slipping and sliding on the wet sand, I reached the car and threw myself in. I didn't look back, as I was sure I would see the tentacles slithering up behind me. When I glanced at the beach through the rearview window, it seemed empty. The February ocean, gray and restless. The rocks, black and still. I never saw or heard from Laura again. I miss her so much. A Horoscope for Death by GuyAwks. Recently, my girlfriend has become a bit of an astrology fanatic. Katie's been getting her horoscopes online from the same quack website for the past several months. I'd always written it off as an endearing, harmless hobby that she indulged in. Well, that opinion changed this month after Katie received her horoscope prediction for February. Virgo, death awaits. The stars warn of impending mortal danger in your future. Be extremely wary of new entrants into your life. You will not have met this interloper yet, but you soon shall. Do not allow them the opportunity to deceive you. Their kind exterior masks a hidden malice, and they will employ misdirection at every turn. Fate will answer the credulous among you. Maybe the stars are wrong, was Katie's nervous response. Mine was less forgiving. Clearly, whoever was running this website had a sick power trip over people's lives. I told her not to let such manipulative tripe get to her. But for Katie, that was easier said than done. She took the horoscope to heart and became increasingly paranoid of new people entering her life. Her killer had to be someone she didn't know yet, and every unfamiliar person was a suspect. One in particular was a creepy new employee at her work. As predicted, James quickly became obsessed with Katie. What had started out as friendly conversation and light compliments soon escalated into unwanted gifts and lewd comments. In the lead-up to our 1-year anniversary, all Katie could think about was how to deal with her newfound stalker. Luckily for us, fate provided a solution. News eventually came that James had been suddenly fired, disappearing with no further action. Katie was over the moon. Her horoscope must have been a sham after all. Come the morning of our anniversary, everything was blissful again. The drama of Katie's cryptic warning all but forgotten. We lay together tenderly and listened to the radio, savoring this special day that had come so close to being ruined. Then I made her breakfast in bed, short stack pancakes, drizzled with maple syrup and fresh berries. Katie ate her food while I sat there, watching the beautiful woman who I had meticulously chosen exactly a year prior. She finished every last bite, including the cyanide I dissolved into her maple syrup. It was only then that Katie realized she'd been reading last year's February horoscope. Valentine's Hostage, unknown author. My mouth was covered in the thick taste of copper, like someone had laid cold, molten pennies along my tongue. Peeling my lips apart, blood seeped from the gaps and cracks in my teeth and dripped upon my dirty jeans, covered in dried, brown, bloody blots. As my eyes adjusted, I could see my booted feet sat on the floor, and by the tip of my boot, a shiny white tooth that belonged to me. It was balanced on top of the concrete, and only a few inches away from the chair I was held captive on. Pulling my arm up, I felt the rope suddenly tighten, and the metal weight on the floor shudder with minor movement. Alas, my dreams that told me the metal had turned to water and the rope to simple strands of hair were lies, and I was again stuck in the chair for another day. What day was it anyway? I couldn't bear to understand it personally. The passage of time moved slowly, or quickly, or not at all, in a room without windows and only a singular door. Concrete couldn't tell time. I thought back, thinking slowly and methodically. I was taken on the Thursday, and my last meal had been on the Friday, the only day where they felt like good enough human beings to actually give me some food. So that made today Wednesday. Today was the 14th, and it was Valentine's Day, and I was stuck in a concrete box. There was nothing to this concrete box except some stains on walls, scratches along the floor, and the metal lifting weight behind me. I had caught glimpses of it on that Saturday when I still had my strength to try to fight, and I noticed it was one of the classic weightlifting discs. With my head over my shoulder and my arm shaking from the weight, I could read it, and it was a 50-kilogram disc, and underneath that big number, there was a smaller one that said it was 110 pounds in weight. That was the only day I had the strength to lift that weight. On the Sunday, when I tried to lift again, I could barely get it to level with the back of the chair. On Monday, I could barely lift it off of the floor. On Tuesday, I couldn't even lift it off of the floor. Today, I couldn't even be bothered to try anymore. I wasn't allowed to leave, never allowed to leave. And that is all I knew about. That was all what my captors have told me, that I would never go home. I never met my captors, nor even saw their faces, and they would only really speak to me through the door, and only with muffled voices, with napkins and forced, deep voices. It was difficult to understand what they even were. Were they man or woman, European or American? It was impossible to tell, and there was nothing I could pick up on through the voices, and I was simply stuck with imagining them as blank figures, people who had no actual features or characteristics. They were truly nothing people in my eyes, as I couldn't imagine them in any other way. I simply listened to them as they talked to each other, as they talked to me, and as they talked to themselves. I had no idea who they were or who sent them. I was starting to get nervous on that Wednesday and didn't know. On that Valentine's Day, I should have been with my girlfriend, a nice girl called Mary, but I was stuck in a concrete box instead. I should have been eating chocolates, watching some romantic crap on the television, and I should have a belly full of a fancy dinner. I would have chosen the steak, medium rare, with some exotic sauce that the stupid waiter was offering, and she would have chosen some healthy option that she wished I had chosen. After about an hour of eating an appetizer and finally getting our main courses, I would have drunk enough pop and water that my dentist would be having a heart attack, and she would have acted like my dentist, telling me off and telling me that I should have taken better care of my teeth. As soon as I thought about teeth, I stared down at the tooth that was sitting by my boot, and I wanted to crush it underneath my steel-toed tread. I called out to them for the first time. Who sent you? They responded, Mary, in unison. My world, my everything. Author, unknown. Hi, honey, I call as Tom wanders down to the garden where I'm working. He smiles. I can always make him smile. Another flower bed? He says with a wry twitch of his eyebrow. I nod, regarding my handiwork with pride. We'll run out of gardens soon, he jokes. I laugh, but it's a thought that's crossed my mind too. I continue planting bulbs and try not to let my concern show. I glance up at him and catch him tapping away on his phone. I grit my teeth. Everything all right? I ask with forced nonchalance. He doesn't return my gaze. Julia, from my office, didn't stop by here earlier, did she? He asks. We have to meet up to discuss that project we're working on, but I can't get a hold of her. Sorry, hun, I reply. I've not seen her. Not for a couple of hours, anyway. He holds his phone to his ear, and I hope to God that I buried hers deep enough. He frowns as he reaches her voicemail, and relief washes over me. I'm sure she's just busy, I assure him. Busy whoring around in hell. Yeah, he says, unconvinced. I hate to see him worried like this, but I had no choice. I couldn't let her steal my Tom. She would never have loved him like I do. None of them would have. He sighs, gazing around at my beautiful flower beds, and I gaze up at him, my world, my everything. I love you, Tom, I say, and he smiles. I can always make him smile. I love you too, Mom, he says. My boyfriend looks so cute when he sleeps. I know. Everyone says this about their partner, but he really is. I remember I met him 2 years ago. I was trying to bench press about 20 more pounds than usual. Him being the cutest and sweetest person saved me, just as my arms were giving out and the bar almost snapped my neck. He grabbed it. Ever since then, we've just been inseparable. It's like wherever we went, he would always steal a glance at me. It always made me feel like I was the only girl in the world he found pretty. I never wanted to be away from him, like ever. I've even gotten tattoos dedicated to him. I'm so in love, and he feels the same too. I can't wait until he proposes. The only problem we ever have is that when we get into fights, he pretends he doesn't know me. It just makes me so mad. Not even mad. No, it makes me livid. One day, we were walking in the park, and I don't know what I did to make him mad, but he just snapped at me in front of everyone. It made me so livid. That was the first and last time I ever slapped him, and instantly I gasped, apologizing profusely as tears crept into my eyes. Oh, anyways, back to the original point. He's just so cute when he sleeps. From his cute small breaths, the way his body moves a little if he's dreaming, all the way to his adorable messy hair. I just love his morning voice. It's so raspy and so attractive. I guess I made him mad yesterday, because when he woke up, he started yelling at me, saying stupid things like, "How did you get in here? I got a restraining order, you psycho." It just made me so livid. Yeah, it made me livid. So, as he was trying to call 911, I made a mistake. I hit him so hard over his head, he started to bleed. His head instantly hit the pillow, and again, I started to admire how cute he was when he was sleeping. When he wakes up, I hope he isn't too mad at me for hitting him. He just has to understand. He can't pretend he doesn't know me just because he's mad. It's not fair. I would like to give a heartfelt thank you to the special friends of the channel for your overwhelming generosity. If you would like to support the channel, the link is below in the description. Also, please send me your stories and poems to duchessofdarkness27@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at duchess.ofdarkness and Twitter at duchessofdarkn2. I want to thank all my listeners for your kindness, your encouragement, and your support. It means the world to me. Thank you for joining me. Until next time.